Hey guys, it's Eric Weingarten with Weingarten Racing. I'm going to show you what I'm doing to port these AFR Enforcer heads. They're not really porting, this is just mild work. So the first thing it was done, if you watch my previous video on the stock version, the valve job was sufficient as far as sealing, but it didn't do much for flow. So I redid the valve job, as you could tell. Now I warn you, their valve seats that use in these Enforcer heads, they're very easy to cut because they're made of a softer ductile iron material or something. I'm not even sure if it's ductile iron, but whatever it is, it's soft, so it cuts like butter, but it also causes it to smear bad. So the camera does not focus very well. There you go. So you see these lines where it's picking up other pieces that's been cut and trying to put it back in it. I picked up the speed to see if it make a bigger difference, and this is as good as you could get. So then, of course, there's a radius on this. So there's 5 angles that are on it. And I've got an iPhone 14 now, and it focuses worse than the one that was a 12. But anyway, there you go. You got your 5 angles that are in there now. It's there. There's a radius on the exhaust. Now, what was done? Let me show you, because this is one hasn't been done, the other one has. So here's the finished version. So what you have is this ledge that was here. And by the way, this was done as quick as possible. I'm trying to bang this thing out real fast because I got a lot of other jobs that have to get done. So anyway, here we go. First off, there was a ledge here left from where the valve job was cut. That got removed and blended out. Especially on the exhaust side, there was a heavy one here. This is stuff, by the way, you can do from this point on, from after the valve job is done, you could definitely do this. If you're handy with a grinder, you can do this part. So what I did was blended the valve job, got that, and then I used the cartridge roll real quickly and just blended it all the way. A couple of the valve angles are gone. So it's left with 1, 2, 3. That's what I mean. So we start with 5, but really blending it down to 3. So as you can kind of see on some of these others. And like I said, I was really trying to lickety split this thing and get it out. Usually they look better. And by the way, if you're wondering how can you make them look better or worse, slow your speed down. So after you do a fast speed with your cartridge roll, if you do a medium speed, it'll look like this. If you slow it down really good, you can make them look where there's like, as if there's no lines. You can see some lines here, don't look as pretty. Has nothing to do with flow, 0, but it just doesn't look as pretty. I actually, on the intake side only, I figured most guys porting these heads is probably gonna, cut down the vein here, make them more teardrops. So that's what I did. Should I have done it on the exhaust? Absolutely. Did I have time? No, and the customer's not paying for it anyway. So that got left. So I'm sure you're like, why didn't you do it? Well, I'm not getting paid to do it, and as much as my ego would like to see it done, there's other stuff to get done. But, so pretty much, just to give a recap real quick, blend the valve job. You can see another cartridge roll line there. It could be oil too. Blend the valve job. I didn't make the bowl any bigger and just shaped that. Took out the mark that was here from where it was valve job got left. Same with on this side, and blended in chambers. That's it. On the exhaust side, same thing. Blended in the valve job and rounded it again on the chambers. Just to show you the unfinished one so you can get a better idea back here. So what I'm saying is that gets blended out, that gets blended out, this gets blended out, this whole ridge here, that's where I'm blending the valve job, making this a better transition. Probably should have done with the exhaust, don't have time. And the exhaust itself, blending that out, get rid of this, not all the way, because you'd have to dig way deep to get rid of that. And that's just nature of the beast. If you did that, it looked great. It's probably worse for flow to dig all that way out like that. It's just not an idea design. They took too much when they did that cut. Blend that, especially the short side, and you're good to go there. Same thing happened there. Get rid of that edge on the short side on the intake. When it's done, it should look like this. So, like I said, definitely not my best work, but this took me an hour, just giving you an idea. So I was trying to move fast. There's what I'm talking about with that ledge that's left. It's dug, so it looks like it's just smooth and you could just blend in and it's sticking out. No, it's sticking in. So you're actually going from it and curving and going inwards and out. It's not ideal. The way it should go is flat, not down and then back up this way. So that doesn't look as pretty. For you, if you're watching this and you're an LS guy, your LS heads are the same way. They'll do the same, the stock ones. They'll have this mark right here and people grind it out, but what you did is you dug in and then out. It really didn't help flow at all. But anyway, it does look better. No doubt, looks better. So there's the finished product. And what I'm gonna do next is I'm going to mill these. So right now they're currently 65 cc chambers, and I'm gonna get them down to 61 cc's because that gives the customer the target desired compression ratio that he wants. So I'm gonna mill them. So just to figure out how much it's gonna take to mill, it's 65 cc's going to 61. That's a 4 cc change. It takes about 6 thousandths on a flat cut to do that. So I'm gonna take off 24 thousandths. 6 times 4, 24. Now, you might say, well, does it mess up the intake match? Not on a flat mill. And I shouldn't say intake match. Intake bolt alignment, not on these. So on a 4,000 steel, especially Fords, you guys' bolts come straight down. So you'd have to move quite a bit before you got into it. 24 is not gonna make you that much of a difference. You got plenty of material here before the opening of the intake port in the deck, so you're good there. So, and several people asked me about the deck thickness on the heads. Here you go. Let me find a spot to look at. They're not near as thick as their Renegades, AFR's Renegades. You can see right there, hopefully. Not very thick. But you're like, well, is it gonna seal up on boost? You'd be surprised on how thin some of the decks are that I've sealed. And I've seen some really thick decks not seal, because I think a large majority of people ignore this finish on your block. So you might have a perfectly thick deck, nice smooth heads, and then you use your stock block that's never been milled, and then you blow a head gasket and you blame the head's deck thickness, and it's really the block. So anyway, I'm gonna mill these real quick, put them up on the floor bench to see what changes it actually got made. So anyway, let me get to the mill. Okay, so I've modified the head, put it up on the flow bench, and you get to hear what it does. If you hear that cracking in the background, let me show you. This is not related to the head, but some of you may not know this. If you ever build a shop, never have your shop door facing towards the north. So you hear that wind, it's crackling through just because I know you don't really care, but let me just show you this. Snow blowing in because it's bowing the door. So all those rags I shoved around the door, yes, that's stupid, just to keep it from creaking, and it's still creaking. So anyway, back to this. So if you hear that noise, don't be like, what's that noise in the background? That's what it is. Let's get to these results though. So here you can see the stock ones. You can watch the video about the AFR Enforcer small block Ford stock. That's these numbers. It was floating on a 4030 bore. It was floating on a 430 bore after. Nothing changed besides the work. This is the intake work, and that's the exhaust. Both were flowed without an exhaust pipe. So if we look, a little bit of a gain at 1. Quite a bit though, 7 CFM or so at 2, and about 3 CFM at 3, but at 4, you know, it's gained quite a bit more. It's down to 230s, which were about where I landed. But look at 5. 5, it gained 14 CFM, 10, 11 CFM almost at 6, and then 10 CFM at 7. 8's where it makes this huge jump, which I know like no one's running in this head with an 800 lift cam. No, that's true, but it does show you how good it still keeps flowing with this. But I mean, that's a huge jump. That's almost 30 CFM. Same with that 9. So that's a lot there. Granted, most of you don't do there, but that's a good sign that it's going to keep making power. So most of you probably won't be in that range. You'll probably be between 4 and 5, which is easily both a really good gain there. So I think this is definitely an improvement. The exhaust side, it also picked up. You gained 4 at 200 and about, 8 or so at 3, and then about 10 at 4, and then it goes all the way up. It still is backing up because there's really no port work done, but it's a pretty good gain. I mean, look, 171 to a 189 at 5. That's a pretty good gain. It's almost 20 CFM. That's really good. Now, some of you would rather see a graphical representation, so I got that here up on the screen. Hopefully the flashing, there we go. Okay, so this line, these 2 lines are the intake flow. So this is right here, sorry about the flashing, I don't know why it does that. This right here is the stock, and that's the modified. So you might say, wow, that's a big jump. That's where you saw that 30 CFM gain. You might be asking yourself why I did that. Well, I'll come back to that. This is the exhaust, so this is the bottom line stock, and this is modified. That's a pretty good jump. I mean, that's stout. It's pretty good to be proud of. But let's talk about this little jump here. Let's talk about why I think it happened. It's the chamber. Usually when you see something like that happen, it's not so much the short side, because the short side, usually whenever it's too fast, it just backs up and continues to back up, or it'll stay flat. So it'll back up. In other words, it might go 300, then it'll go 280, but then it'll stay at 280. When it does this weird where it flips way up, usually it's because of something in the chamber. In other words, it finally becomes less shrouded. So probably in the case is the valve is in between this range right here, and then when it gets to here, it's flowing more, because this part right here in the chamber probably needs to be dug out to give it more unshrouding around the valve for the air to get out. But once it's past that point, it's got more area around it, so it can flow more, and hence it does. So typically when you see a jump like that, that's something in the chamber. So you might say, why don't you just dig that out then? Two things. One, if you dig out the chamber, you're gonna increase the chamber size. And I did mill these to 61 cc's, which took off 24 thousandths. So digging that out, it's kind of, you definitely might have gained some flow in between this range right here. Maybe it would have probably gained just a little bit more, but you would also lost compression. So then you'd have to mill more. So you end up kind of chasing your tail on that type of deal. So whatever you might have gained in flow, you lost in compression. So you mill to make up for it. I mean, you could do that and just kind of chasing yourself. So that's one of the things. The other thing is sometimes people just don't have piston and valve clearance. So with milling more off is not an option, because you really don't have any more room. So there you go. Anyway, thought I'd show you that. Now, as you can see, that's all that's been done to the head. So you might be asking yourself, wow, that's a huge gain for a pretty minimum amount of work. The valve job probably did a lot of this. So I can confidently say most of you that have any kind of porting knowledge or having any idea what you're doing, you can do most of this with the exception of the valve job. So I would take it to someone who's smarted with the valve jobs themselves as far as what it takes to actual flow, not necessarily sealing, flow. So there's a lot of people cut with 3-angle valve jobs. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but they're not always designed for the best flow. Great for sealing. So take it to a guy that might have a flow bench, knows what they're doing, and have it done. We're like, well, what about you? If I do a valve job, that's $300. So I'd be happy to do that for you, and you can do all the rest of the grinding. But what if you're like, I'm not into that, man. That seems like a lot of work, and I just try to trust a professional. How much do you charge to do something like this? Well, this right here is $700. So this guy actually got a bit of a deal because it's the first one. Just kind of wanted to see what it would do. Real easy stuff on that. So yeah, you're looking about $700 to have them milled. Is another 150. Although I'm probably going to raise my prices in January for that. So anyway, there you go. I do think confidently you can do this. I totally do. I will warn you, if you leave the stock valve job, you are not going to see these gains. That's the majority of the gains were from changing the angles of the valve job and helping that throat area better. Grinding by hand, you're not going to do that. You cannot fix that. So you'll get some gains, but nothing like that. It just won't happen. So I know that sounds like you're just saying that because you want to sell service. No, I'm just trying to be honest with you, because I know a lot of people right now are like, I can't do that. I'm not going to do a valve job. It'll be just fine. I mean, it's only going to lose like 5 CFM. No, you're only going to gain at most 5 CFM. You're not going to gain that 30. The valve job is the most important. It just is. And I'm not trying to sell anything. I've done this enough to know that's what it is. If it was like a better valve job from factory, I probably wouldn't say that, but these just aren't. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to put this out probably on Christmas, so probably no one's going to watch this. If I don't put it out on Christmas and you're watching after it, I hope you had a good Christmas. Remember, I'm no Superman. You guys take care.